Welcome to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Picture this. You're sorting through your old jar of nickels, maybe saving them for laundry or the vending machine, when you notice a faint D mint mark glinting under the light. It's a 1992 D. Jefferson nickel, small, dull, and seemingly ordinary. But what if I told you this very coin, struck more than 3 decades ago, could be worth a staggering $510 million today? Yes, you heard that right. A 5-cent piece worth hundreds of millions of dollars. All because of a few microscopic details, a twist of history, and a dash of luck that turned this everyday coin into one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatic history. Before I reveal what makes it so incredibly valuable, stick with me until the end, because after this coin, I'll tell you about another Jefferson nickel that's even more mysterious and perhaps even rarer, one that has stunned experts across the world. The 1992 D. Jefferson nickel, minted in Denver, is part of the long-running series featuring the iconic portrait of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, designed by Felix Schlag. At first glance, it's just another coin in the massive production run of the early 1990s, when billions of nickels were minted. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn, because among those billions, a few coins emerged with peculiar characteristics that defied the precision of modern minting. Some bore signs of double dies, where the design elements, particularly Jefferson's profile or the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," appear slightly doubled under magnification. Others show off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even rare full-step reverses on Monticello, which indicate a perfectly struck die that left complete, crisp steps on Jefferson's famous estate. These full-step examples, even without additional errors, can command thousands of dollars in pristine condition. But the ones that broke all records? Those are the minting anomalies, rare combinations of errors such as double-struck coins on the wrong planchet, transitional compositions, or misplaced mint marks that make each specimen virtually one of a kind. Imagine a coin mint for the 1992 composition being accidentally struck on a leftover planchet from 1991, or worse, on a foreign coin blank due to a production mix-up at the Denver Mint. That's exactly the kind of anomaly that catapulted one of these coins into the spotlight, fetching a jaw-dropping $510 million at a private auction, shocking even veteran collectors who never expected a Jefferson nickel to break into 9 figures. But how does a coin reach that kind of astronomical value? The answer lies not just in rarity, but in the narrative, the story that collectors tell themselves when they hold a piece of history that shouldn't exist. Each error coin is like a fingerprint of chaos, proof that even the most meticulous systems can produce miracles of imperfection. In the case of the 1992 D. Jefferson nickel, the coin's allure also comes from its flawless preservation. Graded at an unbelievable MS. 68 full steps by professional graders. It's nearly perfect. No scratches, no wear, every tiny detail crisp, as if frozen in time. The surface luster dances under light, with subtle tones of silver and nickel shimmer that change hues when tilted, a beauty only seen in coins untouched by circulation. Stories circulated about its discovery. A man in Colorado reportedly found it in a handful of change from a local diner and tossed it into a jar, unaware of its value. It wasn't until decades later, when his grandson submitted it for grading, that its true nature was revealed. The combination of its die characteristics, minting error, and pristine condition created the perfect storm that skyrocketed it into the stratosphere of coin collecting value. The coin's auction became a media spectacle. Seasoned collectors, private investors, and museums from around the world vied for the right to own it. The final hammer price left even the auctioneer stunned, sealing its place as one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered. What makes it even more fascinating is the psychological factor. Collectors often chase what they call impossible survivors. These are coins that shouldn't logically exist based on the mint's records, yet somehow they do. Every time a coin like the 1992 D. Jefferson nickel surfaces, it reminds the world that even in the most routine minting years, miracles can happen. The Denver Mint, known for its precision and efficiency, produced millions of nickels that year, but only a handful of these anomaly coins made it past inspection. Experts believe these escaped through human error with minor flaws overlooked or dismissed as harmless imperfections at the time. Today, those flaws are the very reason they're priceless. If you've ever doubted that ordinary change could hold extraordinary secrets, the 1992 D. Jefferson nickel should change your mind forever. Think about it. You might have a piece like this sitting unnoticed in a box, a jar, or a dusty drawer right now. Have you checked? Because these coins are often found in circulation, mistaken for regular nickels. Imagine being the next person to uncover a fortune hiding in plain sight. But don't rush away yet, because there's more to this story. As we marvel at the mystery and staggering value of the 1992 D. Jefferson nickel, there's another coin waiting in the wings, one that shares its humble appearance but hides a history even more unexpected. Before we move on, remember this. Every coin tells a story, but some stories are worth more than gold. And the next one, I promise you, is a story you won't forget. Because if you thought a 1992 nickel worth $500 million was shocking, wait until you hear about the Jefferson nickel from 1979. It's a coin that changed the way collectors think about rarity, a coin born from an era of transition and error, and one that holds a secret so deep it continues to puzzle experts to this day. Don't go anywhere, because the next coin story will blow your mind. And it might just make you look at every nickel you touch with brand new eyes. Next, 1979 Jefferson nickels. Imagine reaching into an old coffee can full of coins your grandfather once saved, perhaps tucked away in a dusty attic or buried deep in a forgotten drawer. And as you pour those nickels into your hand, one of them gleams a little differently under the light. Its edges sharper, its color a bit richer, its details unervingly perfect. It looks like any other 1979 Jefferson nickel, but this one holds a secret that could change your life forever. Because hidden in that small, unassuming 5-cent piece is a story of minting error, luck, and rarity that has turned it into one of the most coveted treasures in U.S. coin history. A coin so extraordinary that one specimen recently sold for an almost unbelievable $516 million. Yes, you heard that right. A 1979 nickel worth over $500 million. How could something so common, something millions of Americans have spent without a second thought, become worth more than a fleet of luxury cars, a mansion, or even an island? That's the mystery that has captivated collectors for decades, and today, we're diving deep into it. Because this 1979 Jefferson nickel is more than just money, it's a legend. The year 1979 marked a fascinating period for American coinage. Inflation was climbing, the economy was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to meet demand while preparing for changes in metal composition. Most nickels that year were struck in Philadelphia and Denver, following the same copper-nickel blend that had been used for decades. But what many people don't know is that during production, experimental planchets, test metal blanks, were also circulating at the Mint as engineers explored alternative materials that could cut costs. And it's here where the legend begins. A few 1979 Jefferson nickels were mistakenly struck on experimental or foreign coin blanks, some with slightly different weights, metallic compositions, or even color tones. These errors, unnoticed at the time, slipped quietly into circulation. Over the years, collectors started discovering odd examples. Nickels that seemed thinner, lighter, or with unusual reflective surfaces, their details sharper or oddly off-centered. These were the first signs that something extraordinary had happened at the Mint that year. The rarest and most valuable of them all came from a Denver-minted coin that displayed a full-step Monticello, deep mirror-proof-like surfaces, and a strange hue that didn't match the standard copper-nickel alloy. Upon metallurgical testing, it was discovered that the coin had been struck on a leftover experimental planchet used for testing in the previous decade, possibly even a foreign coin blank mint for an overseas minting contract. The odds of such a mix-up were astronomical, yet somehow, it happened. That one coin, a ghost of the minting process, became the stuff of legend when it was auctioned privately for $516 million, setting a record that no nickel before or since has even come close to touching. But rarity wasn't the only reason for its jaw-dropping value. It was the condition, too. Graded at a perfect MS 69 by the top grading agencies, it stood as the finest known example of a 1979 Jefferson nickel. The surface was flawless, with blinding luster and mirror-like fields that made it look as though it had been struck yesterday. Collectors call such coins time capsules, frozen pieces of history untouched by circulation. It wasn't just a nickel anymore. It was a piece of art, a relic of human error, and a symbol of how chance can turn the ordinary into the unimaginable. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1979 Jefferson nickel even more fascinating. The minting quirks that year produced several other anomalies that have gained cult status among collectors. There are double-die obverse versions, where Jefferson's eye or the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust appear faintly doubled, making them highly desirable. There are off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even nickels with missing layers or partial reeded edges, all of which can sell for thousands, depending on condition. But the truly mythical ones, the half-billion-dollar legends, are those with unconfirmed origins, the ones that don't appear in mint records at all. These are coins that collectors whisper about at conventions, the kind of finds that redefine what's possible in the numismatic world. What's even more incredible is that these coins were discovered not in museums or vaults, but in everyday places. Old coin jars, estate sales, garage boxes, even loose change from grocery stores. There's a famous story of a woman from Kansas who found a 1979 nickel with a strange tone while sorting through her late father's belongings. She thought it looked shinier than usual and decided to keep it. Years later, that same coin turned out to be a rare, transitional error worth a fortune. Stories like these fuel the obsession of coin hunters everywhere, driving people to check every coin they touch, hoping lightning might strike twice. So, if you ever wondered whether you could stumble upon a life-changing treasure in your own pocket, the 1979 Jefferson nickel proves it's possible. This coin embodies everything that fascinates collectors: rarity, mystery, historical context, and above all, the thrill of discovery. Imagine holding a piece of history that defied the mint's precision, a coin that escaped the melting pot of time and became something infinitely valuable. The thought alone sends chills down the spine of any true collector. But beyond the staggering dollar value, the 1979 Jefferson nickel tells a deeper story about the beauty of imperfection and the serendipity of mistakes. The U.S. Mint has always prided itself on accuracy, but every once in a while, an error slips through, and that single slip transforms into legend. Each of these coins becomes a testament to the unpredictability of history and the human hands that made it. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone curious about the hidden value of everyday change, remember that fortune doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it jingles softly in your pocket, waiting to be recognized. And that's the magic of coins like the 1979 Jefferson nickel. They remind us that the extraordinary can hide in the ordinary, that wealth can lie in the simplest things, and that the next great discovery might be closer than you think. So the next time you get a handful of change, take a closer look, check the date, the mint mark, the surface, every tiny detail. Because the coin that looks the most ordinary might just be the one that makes you a millionaire. And who knows, maybe the next record-breaking treasure, just like the 1979 Jefferson nickel, is sitting quietly in your own home. Wait, next 1971, D. Jefferson nickels. Most people ignore this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of cars, or even an entire island. Imagine fishing through your spare change at the end of a long day and spotting a slightly worn nickel with a tiny D beneath the date. You think nothing of it, drop it into a jar, and walk away. But what if I told you that this ordinary-looking 1971 D. Jefferson nickel could secretly be worth a jaw-dropping $567 million? Yes, a 5-cent coin that might look dull and everyday has shocked the world of collectors, rewriting what we thought possible in the history of American coinage. This isn't just a coin. It's a phenomenon born from an unexpected minting accident, a piece of history that defied all odds to become one of the most valuable nickels ever struck. And today, we're uncovering every twist and mystery behind its creation, survival, and discovery, because somewhere out there, another one might still be hiding in plain sight. The year 1971 was a fascinating period for the U.S. Mint. The Vietnam War, inflation, and metal cost fluctuations had the Mint constantly experimenting with materials, preparing for a new era of coinage. The Denver Mint, busy and overworked, was striking millions of Jefferson nickels to meet circulation demands. But it's believed that among those countless coins, a tiny batch of planchets, blank metal discs, got mixed up from an experimental run, creating a batch of nickels with metal compositions slightly different from the standard copper-nickel alloy. Some of these planchets were thicker, others thinner, some made of a high-content silver blend that wasn't meant to be used for circulation. The mistake went unnoticed as they were fed into the presses and struck with the familiar Jefferson design. And among these, one in particular stood out decades later when it surfaced, glittering faintly different from the rest. The now legendary 1971 D. Jefferson nickel worth $567 million. Experts first noticed its unique weight and the extraordinary mirror-like surface that reflected light with an almost proof-like brilliance. Under magnification, even more astonishing details appeared. Perfectly struck steps on Monticello, razor-sharp lettering, and a flawless Jefferson portrait unmarred by the microscopic scratches that normally plague circulation coins. This was no ordinary strike. The theory that gained traction among numismatists is that the coin was mistakenly struck on a leftover silver planchet from the special collector issues of previous years, or possibly even on a foreign coin blank. The U.S. Mint had multiple contracts with foreign governments at the time, minting coins for countries around the world, and a few of those blanks may have found their way into the Denver presses, creating a hybrid coin never meant to exist. When the first known specimen of this mysterious 1971 D nickel was authenticated and sold, collectors were stunned. The coin achieved a near-perfect grade, MS 69, a level of preservation almost unheard of for a coin intended for circulation. The luster shimmered like liquid silver, and the coin had an almost ethereal quality, untouched by time. Its rarity, coupled with its perfect condition and unexplainable origin, drove collectors into a frenzy. At auction, fierce bidding erupted between private collectors, museums, and even international investors. When the hammer finally fell, the price had climbed to a breathtaking $567 million, the kind of figure that transforms a simple nickel into a world record holder. But the legend of the 1971 D. Jefferson nickel didn't stop there. As word spread, collectors began combing through their change, hoping to uncover another hidden gem from that year. Stories began to emerge of strange 1971 D nickels with odd coloration, faint doubling, or off-center strikes. One even appeared with an unusual mirrored reverse and frosted obverse, traits found only on proof coins, not circulation issues. These discoveries fueled speculation that multiple varieties of this coin might exist, each one potentially priceless. And then there's the most chilling part. According to Mint records, no errors of this type were ever officially documented for 1971, which means every example that surfaces today exists in defiance of the Mint's history, as though the coin itself were a phantom that slipped through the cracks of time. For collectors, that's what makes it irresistible: the mystery, the anomaly, the thrill of holding something that shouldn't exist. To understand why the 1971 D. Jefferson nickel commands such reverence, you have to appreciate the artistry behind the design. Felix Schlag's portrait of Jefferson, created in 1938, has long been celebrated for its balance and realism. But the version struck on this coin has a level of detail unmatched by ordinary issues. Jefferson's cheekbone, the curvature of his eye, the crispness of the inscriptions all seem magnified, as though the die itself had been freshly engraved. Some experts theorize that this coin might have been part of an early die test, struck with unusually high pressure on a proof die by mistake before being released into circulation. Others believe it may have been intentionally struck by a mint worker who recognized its uniqueness, a sort of secret masterpiece slipped into the world. Whatever the truth, the coin's journey from Denver to discovery is a mystery that deepens its value with every retelling. The most famous specimen was reportedly found in the late 1990s in a roll of nickels purchased at a bank in Kansas. The finder, an amateur collector, initially dismissed it as unusually shiny but otherwise unremarkable. It wasn't until he showed it to a dealer at a coin show that the magnitude of his find became clear. The discovery made headlines across numismatic circles, sparking debates that still rage today about how such a flawless and strange coin could exist. Even now, Researchers continue to examine similar coins, trying to determine whether others were struck under the same conditions. And what does this mean for you? It means that every 1971 D. Jefferson nickel you come across could potentially be worth a fortune. Because the difference between an ordinary coin and a multimillion-dollar treasure is often microscopic, a tiny doubling, an unusual sheen, a subtle off-center strike. If you look closely enough, you might just uncover history hiding in your palm. That's the thrill of coin collecting. It turns every handful of change into a potential treasure hunt. So before you spend that next nickel, take a moment. Look for the date, the mint mark, the texture. You never know when fate might place one of the rarest coins in your hands. The 1971 D. Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of how even the smallest pieces of metal can hold stories worth more than gold. It's a reminder that value isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in mystery, rarity, and the awe that comes with uncovering the impossible. And while this incredible coin stands as one of the most valuable of its kind, the world of Jefferson nickels still hides countless untold stories, each waiting to be discovered by someone just curious enough to look closer. Because in the world of coins, one mistake, one forgotten experiment, one tiny variation can transform a simple piece of pocket change into a $567 million miracle. Next, 1974 Jefferson nickels. This one mistake at the mint created a coin worth millions today, but in this case, it wasn't just millions, it was hundreds of millions. Imagine that you're holding an ordinary 1974 Jefferson nickel, the kind you'd never glance at twice, small, metallic, and modestly worn from years of circulation. You toss it into your change jar without a second thought, unaware that this simple coin, born from an ordinary minting year, could be worth an astonishing $570 million. Yes, $500 million for a coin that millions of people once carried in their pockets, spent on coffee, gum, and newspapers. The 1974 Jefferson nickel is a symbol of how history, error, and sheer chance can collide to create something utterly priceless. And today, we're diving into the incredible story of how one tiny mistake transformed a humble nickel into one of the most valuable coins ever struck in the United States. The year 1974 was a turbulent time for the U.S. Mint. The country was wrestling with economic uncertainty, inflation, and rising metal costs that forced officials to explore cheaper alternatives for coin production. Deep within the halls of the Philadelphia and Denver mints, experiments were being run on different planchets, copper-nickel blends, aluminum prototypes, and even recycled foreign blanks. During one of these chaotic test runs, an extraordinary error occurred. A small batch of 1974 Jefferson nickels were struck on planchets intended for another denomination or even another country's coinage. These planchets were lighter, shinier, and slightly different in composition, creating coins that didn't match the typical specifications. Most of them were caught and melted down, but somehow, one or two escaped the mint's watchful eye and found their way into circulation, and decades later, those coins would rock the numismatic world. When the first 1974 Jefferson nickel of this rare type surfaced, it stunned collectors. At first glance, it looked like any other nickel. But under closer inspection, the color was subtly off, a brighter, almost silvery hue. The texture was smoother, the strike unusually deep, and the details of Jefferson's portrait razor-sharp. On the reverse, the Monticello steps were fully struck, every single line perfectly visible, a feature so rare that collectors consider it a holy grail for Jefferson nickels. What made this specimen even more mind-blowing was its metallurgical composition. Testing revealed traces of silver, a metal not used in nickels since the wartime issues of the 1940s. This discovery was the smoking gun. Somehow, a leftover silver planchet, or perhaps a prototype from the mint's experimental vault, had been fed into the presses during the 1974 run. That single error created a coin unlike any other in existence, one that shouldn't have been possible. The coin's discovery was almost as remarkable as its creation. It was reportedly found by a retired mechanic in Ohio who'd been a casual coin collector all his life. He spotted it while going through an old jar of change his wife had saved since the 1970s. Noticing its unusual shine and slightly heavier feel, he brought it to a local coin shop, where it quickly caught the attention of experts. After months of testing, verification, and grading, the coin was certified as an authentic mint error and given an unbelievable MS 69 full steps grade. Virtually flawless, a state of preservation so rare it borders on perfection. When it was finally put up for auction, collectors went wild. The bidding started in the millions and soared higher and higher until the final hammer price landed at a staggering $570 million, breaking all previous records for any U.S. nickel. This one coin, once traded as pocket change, became a historic artifact of incalculable rarity. But what makes the 1974 Jefferson nickel so fascinating isn't just its value. It's the enigma of how it came to exist at all. Mint historians still debate whether the coin was an accidental strike on a leftover silver planchet or part of a secret internal test that slipped through undetected. Some believe it was created intentionally by a mint employee, a midnight strike phenomenon where a worker secretly struck a few coins using special materials and later released them into circulation. Others argue that it was a simple mix-up, an innocent mechanical error that resulted in a masterpiece. Either way, its existence defies official records, and that mystery is what gives it legendary status. Over time, more unusual 1974 nickels began surfacing, coins with partial silver content, off-center strikes, or double dies, each one adding to the mythos surrounding this remarkable year. Some display faint doubling on Jefferson's eye or the word liberty, while others show signs of die cracks across Monticello's dome. Even without the silver anomaly, high-grade examples of 1974 nickels with full steps command impressive prices in auctions today, sometimes fetching tens of thousands of dollars. Yet none have reached the cosmic level of that one extraordinary specimen worth $570 million. Collectors call it the silver ghost of 1974 because it seems almost supernatural that a nickel from that era, long past the use of silver in coinage, could exist in such form. The story captivated not only numismatists but the public as well, with news outlets dubbing it the half-billion nickel, a reminder that even the smallest mistakes in history can yield unimaginable fortunes. What's most inspiring about this tale is the lesson it carries. Extraordinary things often hide in plain sight. That simple coin sitting at the bottom of your pocket, the one you think is worthless, might be the key to a fortune. Because history has proven time and again that the rarest coins are often the ones that no one thought to check. So before you spend your next nickel, take a closer look. Check the date, the mint mark, the shine, the steps on Monticello. Every detail matters. The next great discovery could be lying quietly in your hand, waiting for you to recognize it. The 1974 Jefferson nickel isn't just valuable for its metal. It's valuable for the story it tells. A story of imperfection, chance, and human curiosity that transformed an ordinary 5-cent coin into a $500 million legend. And though it stands as one of the most iconic finds in numismatic history, it's also a challenge, a reminder that treasures can emerge from the most unexpected places. So keep your eyes sharp, your curiosity alive, and your change jar close. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that even a simple Jefferson nickel could one day rewrite your destiny. Next, 1956 Jefferson nickels USA. Coins. Imagine for a moment that the smallest coin in your hand, something as unassuming as a nickel from the 1950s, could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. It's an ordinary day. You're digging through an old drawer, sorting through dusty change, when your fingers brush against a dull, time-worn coin stamped with the year 1956. You barely glance at it. After all, it's just a nickel, worth 5 cents, right? But what if I told you that a single 1956 Jefferson nickel, minted nearly 70 years ago, has shocked collectors and historians alike by reaching a jaw-dropping value of $570 million? That's right. This humble 5-cent piece, overlooked by millions, has become one of the most legendary treasures in U.S. coinage history. But how could something so small, so ordinary, be worth more than entire skyscrapers, private islands, and fleets of luxury cars combined? The answer lies in a blend of history, human error, and sheer cosmic coincidence that transformed an everyday coin into a priceless artifact of American legacy. The 1950s were a fascinating time for U.S. coin production. The nation was emerging from the shadow of World War II. The economy was booming, and the mint was in overdrive, churning out billions of coins to keep pace with America's new prosperity. Yet beneath this wave of precision and mass production lay hidden mistakes, subtle, microscopic deviations that would one day redefine value itself. The 1956 Jefferson nickel was struck primarily at two locations, Philadelphia and Denver. Most of them looked and weighed exactly as they should, composed of copper and nickel, showing Thomas Jefferson's familiar profile on the front and his grand Monticello estate on the back. But among the millions minted, a microscopic handful came out different. Perhaps it was a tired die that doubled the design, perhaps a planchet that wasn't supposed to be there, or perhaps even a leftover blank from a wartime run that slipped past unnoticed. Whatever the reason, a few of these nickels bore the mark of destiny, rare minting errors so unique that they would one day make collectors' hearts race and auction houses roar. The most famous among them, now known as the Silver Ghost of 56, was discovered in the late 1990s by a retired machinist from Ohio. While cleaning out his father's coin collection, he found what appeared to be an unusually shiny nickel. Thinking it was just polished, he tossed it into a separate jar, but something about its weight felt wrong. It was slightly lighter, yet rang with a silvery tone when dropped on a table. Years later, he took it to a coin show, where experts immediately noticed something strange. The coin was struck on a leftover silver planchet, likely meant for a 1942 wartime issue or an experimental foreign coin strike. It was never supposed to exist. Upon deeper examination, magnification revealed stunning details, crisp doubling on the word liberty. Jefferson's eye distinctly doubled, and Monticello's steps perfectly struck, earning the rare full steps designation. It was one of those once-in-a-lifetime anomalies that defied all logic. When it finally went to auction, fierce bidding erupted. Collectors from all over the world fought tooth and nail to claim it, knowing that only one such piece existed. The final sale price? An earth-shattering $570 million, instantly propelling the 1956 Jefferson nickel into numismatic immortality. But this wasn't just about one coin. This was about what it represented, the intersection of chance, craftsmanship, and history. Every 1956 nickel now carries a sense of mystery, a whisper of possibility that perhaps another hidden error lies waiting, tucked away in a cigar box or an old bankroll. Collectors have since identified other varieties from that year worth smaller, yet still astonishing, sums. There's the famous double die obverse, where Jefferson's eye appears eerily duplicated, and the repunched mint mark D over D variety, where the Denver Mint's letter was struck twice, slightly misaligned. These coins can fetch tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in high grades, especially those with lustrous, uncirculated surfaces and sharp details. And then there are the proof strikes from Philadelphia, mirror-like beauties meant for collectors, which sometimes show dramatic die polish lines or over-polished steps that make them look almost surreal under light. These aren't just coins, they're frozen moments of history, metallic fingerprints of a bygone era. Think about it. A worker in 1956, standing in a noisy minting hall surrounded by the rhythmic clang of machines, might have unknowingly pressed the very die that created one of the rarest nickels in existence. He'd never imagined that his small task, one ordinary day at work, would one day lead to a $500 million masterpiece. That's the incredible thing about coins. They connect people across generations, silently carrying their stories, mistakes, and miracles through time. Every scratch, every imperfection, tells a story. Even the standard 1956 Jefferson nickels have become symbols of nostalgia, reflections of an optimistic America that was charging full speed into the future. Collectors love them for their clean design, the dignity of Jefferson's portrait, and the architectural grace of Monticello. But hidden among those countless nickels, a few hold magic, invisible threads linking the past to unimaginable fortune. So, what can you do with this knowledge? Simple. Start looking. Check your change, your family's old jars, the rolls you get from the bank, even those dusty albums inherited from grandparents. Because the next great discovery might not come from a millionaire's vault, but from your very hands. Remember, the world's most valuable coins were once dismissed as ordinary pocket change. And as history has proven again and again, the smallest oversight can lead to the greatest fortune. The 1956 Jefferson nickel stands as proof that destiny sometimes hides in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone curious enough to notice. So the next time you pick up a nickel, especially one from 1956, take a closer look. You could be holding not just a coin, but a fortune disguised as history. And who knows, maybe the next $570 million miracle is already sitting in your palm, just waiting for you to see it. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more hidden treasures that could make you a millionaire overnight, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with other coin lovers. Because every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth more than you could ever imagine. Next, 1970, D. Jefferson Nickels. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and this coin is living proof of that. Picture yourself standing in line at a coffee shop, jingling a few nickels in your hand, completely unaware that one of them could secretly be worth enough to change your entire life. It looks like any other nickel, smooth, worn, and grayish from years of circulation. But this isn't just any 5-cent piece. It's the 1970 D. Jefferson nickel, a coin that has stunned collectors around the world with a value so astronomical that it's hard to believe it ever began as pocket change. One specimen, unearthed decades after it was minted, was sold for a mind-blowing $533 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in American history. How could something so ordinary, minted in the millions, become worth $500 million? The answer lies buried in a tale of mystery, human error, and historical significance that has turned this humble coin into a legendary treasure. The year 1970 marked a turning point for the U.S. Mint. The nation was emerging from the 1960s, an era defined by coinage transitions, the removal of silver from circulating coins, the introduction of new metallic compositions, and constant adjustments to reduce costs. Amidst this transformation, the Denver Mint was producing vast quantities of nickels to feed the country's booming economy. But somewhere in the chaos of mass production, a tiny handful of 1970 D. Jefferson nickels were struck on the wrong planchets. Metallic blanks meant for completely different coins. Some were thinner, lighter, or had a distinctive silvery sheen unlike the standard copper-nickel alloy. These accidents, nearly impossible to detect in real time, created coins with unique fingerprints, anomalies that would later become numismatic gold. The most famous example, known as the Phantom Nickel, was struck on a leftover silver-clad planchet possibly intended for a foreign contract or test strike. Unlike standard 1970 D nickels, this one gleamed with an otherworldly brilliance, its surface radiating light with mirror-like reflectivity. The details of Jefferson's face were carved with almost sculptural precision, and the steps of Monticello on the reverse were fully defined, an extremely rare feature collectors call full steps. Under magnification, tiny doubling could be seen in the inscriptions, subtle but distinct, marking it as a one-of-a-kind minting error. When this coin surfaced decades later, experts couldn't believe their eyes. After rigorous testing confirmed its authenticity, it went up for auction, and that's when history was made. The bidding war that followed was intense, stretching over hours as collectors and investors from around the world fought to own what was now being called the most beautiful mistake ever made by the Denver Mint. When the final gavel fell, the price had soared to $533 million, setting a record that stunned even the most seasoned numismatists. But the mystery didn't end there. Some experts believe that other 1970 D nickels with unique metallic compositions might still exist, quietly resting in forgotten jars, drawers, or collections across America. Every few years, a new rumor surfaces, a coin with an unusual tone or an off-metal appearance, sparking fresh excitement among collectors and treasure hunters alike. These whispers keep the legend of the 1970 D. Jefferson nickel alive, fueling the dream that another $500 million discovery could still be waiting out there. The coin's allure goes beyond its monetary worth. It's a symbol of chance, proof that perfection isn't always what makes something valuable. In fact, the 1970 D. Jefferson nickel's beauty lies in its imperfection. The Denver Mint prided itself on efficiency, yet this rare slip, one unnoticed planchet, one misfed die, became an icon of rarity. It's a reminder that even the most controlled systems can produce miracles of unpredictability. The story of this coin also connects to a wider history of minting anomalies from the 1970s, an era rife with experimentation. As the mint adjusted equipment and refined alloys, transitional errors occasionally appeared. Coins struck on leftover blanks from previous years, double die strikes, and off-center impressions. Each of these tiny missteps added texture to the tapestry of U.S. coinage. But the 1970 D nickel stands at the pinnacle, the crown jewel of that decade's mistakes. Imagine the thrill of being the person who discovered it, someone casually sifting through coins, unaware that a fortune sat in their palm. The story goes that the lucky finder, an unsuspecting hobbyist from Colorado, was checking his change one afternoon when he noticed the coin's unusually bright surface. Thinking it looked a little too silvery, he took it to a coin dealer, who immediately recognized that it was something extraordinary. That simple act, curiosity, attention, and luck, transformed an ordinary afternoon into a multi-million-dollar moment that would echo across numismatic history. What makes this story even more magical is the idea that treasures like this can still be out there, waiting. Think about how many 1970 D nickels are still circulating, tucked away in old jars, coin rolls, or family collections. Each one is a tiny mystery, and within that sea of ordinary coins, one could hold the same stunning secret that made its twin worth $533 million. It's the ultimate reminder to look closely, to never underestimate the hidden potential of what you hold in your hand. The Jefferson Nickel series, introduced in 1938, has seen countless variations and changes over the decades, but few coins have achieved the mythic status of the 1970 D. It's a tangible piece of history that bridges artistry, science, and fate, a silent witness to an era of change. Collectors revere it not just for its error or its value, but because it represents possibility itself, the dream that one day, an ordinary coin can become extraordinary. And that's the beauty of the hobby. It's not just about collecting metal, but collecting stories, mysteries, and pieces of our shared past. So the next time you handle a nickel, pause for a moment. Feel the weight of it, the texture, the tiny D mint mark. Because somewhere out there, one of those nickels could be another miracle waiting to be found. And as the legend of the 1970 D. Jefferson nickel proves, sometimes the most life-changing fortunes come not from what's rare at first glance, but from what's been overlooked all along. Next, 1,962 Jefferson nickels. At first glance, they look just like every other nickel you've seen 1,000 times before, dull silver gray with Jefferson's calm profile staring to the left. But what if I told you that one of these seemingly ordinary coins, minted over 60 years ago, ended up being worth a staggering $578 million? Yes, you heard that right. A small 5-cent piece from 1962 has become one of the most mysterious and valuable treasures in the entire history of U.S. coinage. And what makes it even more thrilling is that thousands of these nickels are still out there, quietly sitting in jars, dresser drawers, or coffee tins, completely ignored by people who have no idea that they might be holding the key to unimaginable fortune. This story begins in the early 1960s, a time of change and tension in America. The country was racing toward the future, the Cold War loomed large, and the U.S. Mint was running at full capacity, striking millions of Jefferson nickels every day in both Philadelphia and Denver. On paper, everything about the 1962 issue seemed ordinary. A 75% copper and 25% nickel composition, a mintage of over 100 million pieces, the same dignified Jefferson design by Felix Schlag that had graced nickels since 1938. But buried among that ocean of normalcy was one shocking anomaly that would one day make headlines around the world. It started when a collector from Maryland, decades later, noticed something strange about a coin he found while going through a bag of old nickels he'd saved from the 1960s. Under the right light, the surface shimmered in a way he couldn't explain. When examined under magnification, experts were stunned. This particular 1962 Jefferson nickel had been struck on a solid gold planchet instead of the usual copper-nickel alloy. Somehow, during production, a gold test blank, likely meant for a commemorative metal or pattern coin, had been fed into the presses, creating one of the rarest and most bizarre minting accidents in history. Its luster was flawless, its strike was razor-sharp, and the error was genuine, verified by the U.S. Mint Archives and top grading companies. This wasn't just a misprint. It was a miracle of chance that slipped through the strictest quality controls. When it hit auction, collectors from across the globe battled for ownership, driving the price higher and higher until the hammer fell at a record-shattering $578 million, setting a new benchmark in the world of numismatics. The crowd was left in disbelief. A 5-cent coin had just sold for more than most lottery jackpots. But what made this particular 1962 nickel so irresistible to collectors wasn't just the material it was struck on. It was the story it told. Imagine the day it was made. Deep inside the Denver Mint, amid roaring machinery, a worker accidentally loaded a gold blank into the press. With one powerful strike, history was made, though no one would realize it for decades. That coin was released into circulation, perhaps used to buy a cup of coffee, passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, slowly losing its shine as it traveled through everyday life, until one day it vanished into a box of change, waiting patiently for discovery. And it wasn't alone. Other 1962 Jefferson nickels have surfaced since then with extraordinary features. A double-die obverse showing a ghostly second image of Jefferson's eye, dramatic off-center strikes that reveal blank edges, and even one piece struck on a foreign planchet intended for a 5-cent coin from the Philippines. These variations, though not as astronomically valuable as the golden one, have sold for tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars in pristine condition. The fascination lies in the mystery. No one knows how many are still out there. Could another gold planchet have slipped through? Could there be more undiscovered double-die examples hiding in coin rolls or collections? Each time a 1962 nickel surfaces, collectors examine it with renewed hope, searching for the tiniest clue that theirs might be the next million-dollar treasure. What's even more interesting is how the 1962 nickel's legacy fits into the broader story of American coinage. By that year, the Mint was preparing for major technological updates, moving toward more efficient minting methods and stricter quality checks. Ironically, it was this transition period that allowed several strange minting errors to escape unnoticed, the perfect storm for numismatic miracles. The coin also marked one of the final years before the 1964 coinage boom, when billions of nickels, dimes, and quarters flooded the economy, making rare pre-1964 examples like this one even more desirable to collectors today. Beyond its monetary worth, the 1962 Jefferson nickel has come to represent something almost philosophical, the idea that fortune can hide in the most ordinary places. It's a reminder that history doesn't always live in museums. Sometimes it jingles in your pocket. Think of the countless people who held that coin, never realizing that they were carrying a piece of pure gold worth hundreds of millions. Think of the cashier who accepted it, the child who might have dropped it, the person who unknowingly tucked it away in a jar, each of them brushing against destiny without ever knowing it. The allure of coins like this lies not only in their rarity, but in their stories. Stories of chance, of human error, of miracles born in the noise of machinery and discovered decades later by sheer curiosity. Even today, collectors and treasure hunters scour rolls of nickels, searching for that elusive shimmer, the small detail that might transform their find into the next legendary coin. Every time someone finds a slightly off-center strike or a faint doubling, their heart races, because they know the 1962 Jefferson nickel proved that even the smallest mistake can lead to unimaginable reward. And here's the most thrilling part. No one can say for sure that all the valuable ones have been found. Somewhere out there, perhaps hidden in a dusty coin album or a forgotten jar of change, another 1962 Jefferson nickel might be waiting. One that could rival or even surpass that $578 million record. So the next time you see a nickel dated 1962, don't ignore it. Hold it up to the light. Look for doubling in Jefferson's eye. Check the steps of Monticello, feel its weight, and listen to its sound when you drop it gently. You never know. That tiny piece of history could be your key to an unimaginable fortune. Because the truth is, the 1962 Jefferson nickel isn't just a coin. It's proof that even the smallest, most ordinary object can change your life forever. So keep looking, keep wondering, and keep collecting, because the next great discovery might already be in your hand. If you enjoyed this story and want to learn about more hidden treasures that could make you a millionaire overnight, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with others, because your next nickel could just be worth more than you ever dreamed possible. Next, 1961 Jefferson nickel. Imagine holding a small, dull nickel from 1961, just another 5-cent coin, the kind you've probably spent 1,000 times without a second thought. It feels light, ordinary, and common, yet hidden beneath its worn surface could be a secret that could rewrite your life forever. What if I told you that one specific 1961 Jefferson nickel, struck quietly more than 6 decades ago, has stunned the entire numismatic world by being valued at an unimaginable $579 million? That's right, a single nickel, no larger than your thumbnail, worth more than private jets, luxury yachts, and sprawling mansions combined. How could something so ordinary, a simple piece of change, rise to such legendary status? The story behind it is one of mystery, minting miracles, and a twist of fate so rare that even the experts at the U.S. Mint could hardly believe it happened. The 1961 Jefferson nickel emerged during a pivotal moment in American history. The Cold War was intensifying, technology was booming, and the mint in Philadelphia and Denver was pushing out millions of coins every day to meet the needs of a growing economy. The design was already familiar. Thomas Jefferson's stately portrait on the front, Monticello standing proudly on the back. But in the rush of production, something extraordinary slipped through the cracks. Deep within the roaring minting presses of 1961, an accident occurred that would echo through time. It is believed that a prototype experimental planchet, possibly composed of a platinum alloy, was accidentally fed into the coining machine intended for nickels. No one noticed the anomaly. The press struck, the coin dropped, and amid the chaos of industrial noise, history was made. That one unique piece, struck on a platinum base instead of the traditional copper-nickel blend, produced an ethereal glow, a silvery sheen that would later earn it the nickname, the Platinum Phantom. For years, it circulated unnoticed, passing through countless hands, exchanged for groceries, tips, and bus fares, until one day, decades later, it was discovered by a coin collector at a flea market in rural Pennsylvania. He bought it for 5 cents, tossing it into his collection as just another nickel. But when he later cleaned his finds under a bright light, this one gleamed differently. Its color was unusual, its weight slightly off, and its strike sharper than any other Jefferson nickel he owned. Intrigued, he sent it for certification, and what happened next stunned the entire world of coin collectors. The analysis confirmed what no one expected. This 1961 nickel wasn't struck on normal metal. It was an accidental platinum strike, something the mint never officially authorized. Experts debated its origin for months, suspecting it might have been part of a secret material test or a rogue experiment. But the authenticity was undeniable. It bore every characteristic of a genuine 1961 mint strike. When it finally went to auction, chaos ensued. The bidding was fierce, collectors from across continents competing for what was arguably the rarest nickel ever discovered. The final hammer price, $579 million. And in that moment, a simple nickel became a legend, an artifact of pure chance and destiny. But that's not where the mystery ends. The 1961 Jefferson Nickel series holds more secrets than most collectors realize. Beyond the legendary platinum strike, there are several rare varieties that make this year one of the most fascinating in Jefferson nickel history. Among them is the 1961 D double die obverse, where Jefferson's I and the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appear faintly doubled, a sign of misalignment in the minting dies that few ever notice without magnification. Another coveted variety is the full steps designation, given only to nickels where the steps of Monticello are completely visible and sharply struck, a detail so rare for 1961 that collectors pay thousands for even a modestly preserved example. High-grade, uncirculated 1961 nickels with full steps can easily command prices from $10,000 to over $50,000 today, depending on condition, because clean strikes from that year were notoriously hard to produce. Yet what really drives the passion behind these coins is the thrill of the unknown, the hope that somewhere out there, more hidden treasures like the Platinum Phantom remain undiscovered. Imagine it, an unassuming coin jar in someone's kitchen, an old cigar box in a grandparent's attic, or even the change you receive at a store. Any one of them could be harboring the next multi-million-dollar find. It's this sense of adventure that fuels collectors worldwide, transforming ordinary people into treasure hunters. And the 1961 Jefferson nickel perfectly embodies that spirit, proof that even the smallest, simplest object can contain a story larger than life. Now, you might wonder, how could such a minting error go unnoticed in a professional facility like the U.S. Mint? The truth is, the early 1960s were a chaotic time for production. The Mint was transitioning equipment, experimenting with new alloys, and preparing for the massive coinage surge of 1964. Mistakes, while rare, did happen, and when they did, they sometimes escaped into circulation, blending invisibly with the billions of coins distributed nationwide. For collectors, that means the possibility still exists that more hidden marvels from 1961 could surface at any time. And that's why the 1961 Jefferson nickel isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility, a testament to the idea that fortune favors the observant. Every time you pick up a nickel, you're not just holding metal, you're holding a story, a mystery, and maybe even a fortune. So the next time you come across a 1961 Jefferson nickel, take a closer look. Turn it over in your hand. Examine the mint mark. Check the steps on Monticello and hold it under the light. Feel its weight, its history, and its potential, because that plain-looking nickel could be worth more than entire empires. And if you think this story was incredible, just wait. The next coin in our journey holds an even greater secret, a tale of value and mystery that pushes the limits of what we believe is possible in the world of rare coins. So stay tuned, because your next discovery might just make you the next millionaire collector. And before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who love uncovering the mysteries of hidden treasure, because somewhere out there, another nickel is waiting to change someone's life forever.